The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Earnestly Speaking podcast coming to you on April 27th, 2023. On this very cloudy Thursday morning here in South Florida, as I'm recording this in an empty household here. Both my kids are in school currently. It's about 10:30, well, quarter to 11 actually now. Here, so empty house here. My wife's actually taking the day off from work. Went on a girls' trip for the day to Disney World. She deserves it. Some good things happening for her as of late. I can't go into detail what it is, but because it's private. But some good things have been happening to her as of late, and I'm really proud of her. She deserves this day off, honestly. So I want to get in here quick, talk about a couple things. Mainly, this is going to be a sports-centric episode today, mainly. I want to talk about the playoffs, of course. Tonight's the NFL draft. Also, Aaron Rodgers to the Jets. That's official now. We'll dive into that in a second. Of course, podcasts on all podcast catchers. Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, Google Pod. Of course, most importantly, I guys, if you want to follow my work, follow my my YouTube page at youtube.com/@EarnestChristian. You get all the shows I do, not this one, but also other shows I appear on, guest appearances, and all that stuff. Clips of the show, of course. You know, if you can, this entire episode, there's bite-sized topics on there on the site too as well. So there's a lot of things I try to provide for listeners here to content, and I'm really enjoying doing this. Anyway, let's let me just say this. I'm surprised I'm awake right now because, I've been telling you guys, like, the last couple weeks that it's been a challenge watching these games, these late games, these late NBA games. And, look, never in my life I complain about that because, well, for starters, a good chunk of, the last 15 some odd years, I've worked mostly nights or mids to nights, so my body was able to adjust to that without a problem because I was up late anyway. A lot of times I come home past midnight. So I was already used to that. But the last 4 years, I've been working all days. I am now a morning person. I'm up at 7 o'clock in the morning pretty much every morning. Sometimes 8 depending on the days, But no, it's definitely 7 o'clock most of the time because my kids are going to school. So I take them to school in the morning. And I'm used to that. But then also you have the fact that I need sleep for health reasons. So I can't be up late as I want to anymore. And then, it's just age. I'm turning 43 next week, and I need rest. I need to rest, and I need to, take care, just take care of things. So these late night NBA games, these West Coast NBA games are a challenge. Now, last night, the NBA had a really weird schedule because they had 4 games last night. All 3 were, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, should I say, were actually clinching elimination games for teams, and obviously got 2 of those last night. Get that in a second. But the games, the where I got screwed the most is that I'm a Heat fan, so the Heat game started at 9:30, which you say, oh, it's not that late, but it ends at 12:30. What I mean. And then the series I've enjoyed the most in the first round, the Kings and Warriors, start at 10 o'clock. So I definitely force myself, for the Kings and Warriors games when they on it late, I force myself to stay awake as late as I can. Definitely, because it's worth watching every game. The Heat's on the West Coast. Even on the West Coast trips during the year, I'm going to watch it regardless. I'll struggle, but I'm going to watch it. Anyway, the Heat have advanced to the second round of playoffs. Beat the Bucks 4-1 in their series. It's stunning. And I feel kind of torn about this because on one hand, I understand they did this despite the fact that Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Bucks' best player, best player in the league, in my opinion, they did this without him playing pretty much 2 3/4 games this series rather. He missed game 2, he missed game 3, he missed most of game 1. So he kind of had a shortcut to taking the series lead. But you can also counter that saying, well, yeah, the Heat also lost Tyler Hero in that first game as well, too. Tyler Hero is one of the best ball creators. He's certainly not Giannis great, but that's a big chunk of their team right there. Big chunk of their scoring. That's 20 points a game right there you're losing. And then they also lost Victor Oladipo, who was started to get minutes in Game 3. So the Heat came in limping as well, too. So I'm not going to say it was an even advantage, but it was a advantage for the Heat tremendously. But when you lose two guys that are productive to that team versus the best player in basketball, it does draw a little more even than it's supposed to, than it probably should be. But that being said, games 4 and 5 and how Miami won these games, combination, you can say the Heat won these games, and I'm not gonna say you're wrong because they found a way. Jimmy Butler went absolutely apoplectic. What was it? He scored 98 points in the last two games, 56 points in the first game, in Game 4, and 42 last night. That's 98 points. Unbelievable. It's unbelievable how that guy also elevates his play in the playoffs. And I gotta say, and I said this before the Game 5 last night. I'm going to say it again now. I'm going to say it now publicly here. I think Jimmy Butler is starting to put together a Hall of Fame resume now. I think prior to probably even this playoffs, this year, people will recognize Jimmy Butler as a great player, and will certainly agree with that. But if you said Jimmy Butler Hall of Famer, you might get a lot of pushback on that. People say maybe about it. We'll see. We'll see how things end up. But I don't know. But he's starting to build a sneaky Hall of Fame resume, and it might be more than it could be as something that could be first ballot too if you're not careful. If he continues what he's doing, and what goes on for him, what helps his argument for Hall of Fame is the fact that, first off, he's a 5-time All-NBA player. Okay, probably 6-time because they haven't announced this year's yet, and I have a sneaky suspicion he's going to get All-NBA recognition this year as well too. He's also a 6-time NBA All-Star. On top of that, his career in some ways is comparable to Reggie Miller. And I'm not saying he's as good as Reggie Miller or this and that. But I'm saying this to Trek. Both guys are guys who were really good players during the season, but then elevated to phenomenal status in the playoffs. I think the only thing Reggie has on him is the fact that he was at one point the all-time three-point shooting leader in NBA history. Now, obviously, he's out fourth because guys have passed him since then. Of course, he also didn't, at the time the league wasn't as open in terms of shooting in that way. But other than that, I can argue that Jimmy Butler and Reggie Miller actually are comparable career-wise in terms of accomplishments, in terms of what they've done. Both have been to the finals before. Both have their teams in the conversation to win championships. They haven't won it yet, but they've been in the conversation. But Jimmy Butler, which is fascinating too, is that his life story is so fascinating because this is a guy. He was homeless at 13 years old, got taken in by foster parents. Grinding his way through college, grinding his way to the NBA. Look, first of all, when he came to the NBA, I think he averaged less than 3 points a game with the Bulls his first year, and then found the way to become their star, but not finding the right fit with Chicago, not finding the right fit with Minnesota. Philadelphia could have been a fit, but they chose Tobias Harris over him. I remember saying, I said on this podcast, even back a year before he came to Miami, that I thought Butler would have been a great fit in Miami because I thought his personality would have fit Miami's. His personality actually fits exactly what Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra, how they operate as executives and as coaches in this league. Like if you told me Pat Riley's a player in this league, who would you probably, if you could make the antithesis of not antithesis, but you could make the Pat Riley as a player in this league, who would you put it? I would say Jimmy Butler would be the player that Pat Riley would probably carve out. And all he's done in Miami is in 4 years gone to the finals. They were a shot away from the finals, going to the finals again last year. This year, 8th seed, disappointing season, regular season anyway, but turned on. And to think that this team was literally, I'm here a week and a half ago this time, 2 weeks ago anyway, bitching about the fact that we just lost the Atlanta Hawks in the play-in game 2 weeks ago. And then we're minutes from losing the Chicago Bulls in the second play-in game. It's amazing. Jimmy Butler does his flowers. He's been the best player in the playoffs so far in his first round. I mean, I think he's getting close to this point. Yeah, I think he's building a nice little resume here for Hall of Fame status. Eric Spoelstra deserves a lot of credit for last night too. Elite coaching last night in that game. Adjusting to Chris Middleton. When you torch him in the first half of the game, making fantastic rotation adjustments and stuff. Bam Adebayo played fantastic 20-10 game. Trip dub. You gotta get credit there where credit's due, man. You got to. Man, Heat Knicks. That's next round. That's. I'm not gonna get my prediction out yet. I'm still stunned. I'm still awake. I've never been invested in a first round series like this where I was shaking. Like I thought it was an NBA championship or NBA conference championship at least. It was like into the series. So I'll give my Heat Knicks perspective on the next podcast. I plan on doing a show probably on Sunday morning shortly before the game one tips off. I'll probably lay out my entire second round predictions on the NBA playoffs. But Heat Knicks is I mean everybody's talking about the flashbacks and of yesteryear, and I get all that, man. But those weren't good times for me because the Knicks, other than 1997, dominated the playoff matchups. I won't say dominated because those games were close, but Knicks always found a way to win those matchups. 98, 2000, and 99, right? 98, 99, 2000, right? 4 years in a row. Let me get a little drink of water here real quick. Hold on 1 second. Sorry about that. So I'll give my more perspective on that series in a few days. Couple things also here on the Heat front. People come at me on social media for my predictions when I said Bucks in 5. Again, people come at me for predictions that look. I had no idea Giannis was going to get hurt in the series. You can't sit there and sit there and say that the Heat would have won the series if Giannis was healthy. Now, I guess you're made for that now because Giannis played 2 in 1 quarter games, and they lost all 3 of those games. But they also lost those games largely because of bad coaching. Mike Budenholzer probably should get fired for these last 2 games. Probably won't because he has a championship in the last couple of years. But I can see him be on the hot seat going forward. But that was definitely a bad coaching job by Coach Bud. A guy who's a really good coach. He's a very good coach, but he's had some blunders the last couple of years. I mean, the one championship saves him, though. I will say in 2021 saves him. Also had to watch this game on an illegal site because last night, couldn't find out, this game was on NBA TV, and the game's blacked out in this area because I'm in the market of the Miami Heat. And so this I told you guys this year, I found a way to watch my Heat games throughout the year. There's still the local team is still doing the games, the playoff games. I use Bally Sports Plus because Bally Sports is the regional provider for the Heat here in this market, and I canceled it after getting billed in March because I figured, well, I'm not going to use it again to play. He will be in the playoffs, and most of the games will be on NBA TV or on ESPN on TNT, so I'll be able to see the games. So I have to worry about paying $20 a month for this service. Lo and behold, because the Heat had a couple games on NBA TV, I was not able to watch the games. Actually, no, that's wrong. So Game 2 was on NBA TV, but my service is still good because I canceled it before the cycle ended. But the cycle ended, I think, 2 days ago. The billing cycle ended 2 days ago. So I was able to watch the game on the site. Luckily, I thought about it quickly and say, oh, wait a second. I can bring up on this legal site. I'm not going to mention it to anybody here. I don't want to get in trouble. But I found a streaming site that was carrying the game. So I was able to watch the game on the iPad. I had the Kings Warriors on my the main TV. I was up all night last night. It was insane. Like it's funny because Tuesday night when I was watching the 2 games that night, the Suns and Clippers and then T-Wolves and Nuggets. I passed out. I couldn't do it. And those games were competitive, but I just couldn't do it. I had to work next morning. I was exhausted. I said, no, I can't stay awake for this. I gotta go to sleep. But yeah, it was a little challenging. But I think now with the thinning out of the brackets, the thinning out of the teams now, every game should be on TNT and ESPN the rest of the way. Should be a problem going forward. As for the NBA playoffs and whatnot, the Bucks playoff shock, failure or not, I don't know. Giannis thinks it's not a failure. Getting a lot of mixed reviews on his perspective in the post game yesterday in his presser. One of the media members asked him whether or not this season was a failure. Here's his take on that.
Michael Jordan played 15 years, won 6 championships. The other 9 years was a failure? That's what you're telling me? No, I'm asking you a question. Yes or no? Okay, exactly. So why are you asking me that question? It's a wrong question. There's no failure in sports. You know, there's good days, bad days. Some days you are able to be successful. Some days you're not. Some days it's your turn. Some days it's not your turn. And that's what sports is about. You don't always win. Some other people's going to win. And this year, somebody else is going to win. Simple as that. We're going to come back next year, try to be better, try to build good habits, try to play better, not have a 10-day stretch with playing bad basketball, you know, and hopefully we can win a championship. So 50 years from 1971 to 2021 that we didn't win a championship, it was 50 years of failures? No, it was not. It was steps to it, you know, and we were able to win one. Hopefully we can win another one.
All right, so you hear it on TikTok. I got that from, unfortunately. That was Giannis Antetokounmpo explaining, you know, whether or not the season was a failure or not. That answer, you know, I was on Twitter last night when that came out, and that answer can be taken two ways, to be honest with you. He has a great perspective of life in general. Part of the reason why Giannis is actually my favorite player in the league, number one, is because he's a humble guy. He has a great perspective on life in general. But both could be right here. And it's something that Damian Lillard also touched on a few weeks ago about, you know, because Damian Lillard getting criticized for not wanting to leave Portland yet to chase titles and chase rings and talk about the journey and this and that. He's not necessarily wrong about that, what he's saying there, Giannis. But the reason why the word failure is apropos in this situation is because given the expectations of this team, this is a team that had the best record in basketball this year, okay? Was the favorites coming into the playoffs. Now, yes, again, we agree that Giannis, you know, getting hurt in game 1, missing game 2 and 3, definitely affected the series. Let's be clear about that. Anybody that says that does not is being, you know, dishonest. Let's just stop that. But the way they lost these last 2 games, especially, you know, you have to say at the very least it's a disappointment. This team didn't even get to the conference semifinals, let alone the conference finals, let alone the NBA finals. We were all talking about Bucks and Celtics being the matchup. We all punched that in as the matchup. And the way they lost these 2 games, you have to call it a failure to some degree, a team failure. It doesn't make him a failure. Look, when I go in next year, he will still be considered to be the best player in basketball. Still, that's not going to change. He was fantastic last night. He had 38 points, 20 rebounds. 38 points, 20 rebounds. And in the game before that, he had I think he had a triple-double in game 4, actually. So let's be clear about that. We're not going to call him a failure. I think the season certainly a huge disappointment given the expectations. We have to level the field there, too, also. And it's people giving him passes, people who are not giving passes. And I think all the arguments around that is actually warranted. This is a good discussion to have. Because also, it reflects on how we look at life. It's why part of the things about talking about sports today, part of the hard parts about sports today is that there's a lack of nuance when it comes to players and teams and all that. Like, there's this idea that people think that if you don't win a championship, you suck. So you're going to tell me Charles Barkley sucks? You're going to tell me Elgin Baylor sucks? Those guys are arguably top 20 guys of all time. I won't live in a world like that. Yes, there were team disappointments, team failures that they didn't get over the hump. It's people forget how hard it is to win championships. It's hard to win titles. They make it seem easy. So in that case, Michael Jordan, despite winning six titles, he failed 9 times. Right? He's a failure, right? He failed more than you won, right? No one's saying that. So Giannis' perspective there actually is apropos. I actually tend to lean on his side of the argument on that. But we could also say we could also at the same time acknowledge the Bucks at the very least, were a major disappointment, given how the season ended. And you can say the season was a failure not so much based on the fact they won the title, but based on the fact that they didn't get out of the first round. Just saying. It's actually apropos. All right. Other NBA playoff news and notes here. The Knicks, first time in the second round in 10 years. Look, I gave the Knicks fans shit for years. Act like they've been there, but they really haven't. They haven't. This is not very common. This is only the third time in 23 years they've been to the past first round of playoffs. They are not playoff regulars. Again, I spoke on the last solo podcast I got that on Sunday. Talk about how the thing about the Knicks that's more impressive this year than even 2 years ago when they made the playoffs, and say even 10 years ago when they had Carmelo Anthony, is that this team kind of feels stable. This kind of feels like a team that can. This is not a one-trick pony. It's not like a team that's going to do this for 1 year and that's it. Like, I can see this Knicks core being pretty good for the next couple of years. I'm not saying they're going to be an NBA championship good. I'm just saying they're going to be a playoff regular for years to come. For the next 2, 3, 4 years, possibly. And that's a lot larger than Jalen Brunson. And just bringing that stability here. Again, you remove Jalen Brunson out of Dallas after they went to conference finals last year. Comes to New York. New York is elevated now to a near 50-win team. Dallas goes from a conference finals appearance last year to missing the playoffs entirely this year. Just saying. I know it sounds too simple, but sometimes it is that simple. Stability matters in the NBA. The Clippers, they're out in 5. Man, we were robbed. We were really robbed of a potential 7-game series. I'm convinced. Look, let me say this real quick. I don't trust the Suns. I feel worse about the Phoenix Suns now on a 4-game winning streak in the playoffs than I did come into the playoffs. Because it's not because Kevin Durant's not great, not because Devin Booker's not great and all that. They are. But I'm convinced that if the Clippers were healthy, I think a healthy Kawhi Leonard, that series goes 7 games. And I think a healthy Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, I think the Clippers win that series. So we were robbed of a great series. We really were robbed of a really, really great series. Look, I don't know how I'm leaning on the Suns and Nuggets second round series, but I don't know. I'm not as big. I said it even before when the KD trade happened. I'm not as convinced that the Suns are the overwhelming favorites to win the West. So I'm still on that. As for the Clippers, championship window, it's open, it's closed. It's hard to tell because when Kawhi is healthy, as you saw, this window is a championship. But at this point, look, I don't know what's going to happen now going forward. Look, Kawhi will be back next year because at this point, he has another 2 years of contract, 1 player option on that, the 2 years. Obviously, we'll be back next year in this contract. How they handle him, how he'll do. But I will say this much. They need to find a way to re-sign Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook, found his groove after getting traded out to the Lakers. I've always said that the problem with Westbrook was that he's chaotic, but he needed to find the right team, the right fit. And this Clippers team was the right fit. When Paul George went out, he was a perfect number 2 behind Kawhi. But he's not being KD and Devin Booker without both Kawhi and Paul George. Let's stop there. The problem with the Clippers is that they only have supposedly they'll have only $6 billion in cap space, and Russell Westbrook is still going to command probably a little more money than that. Obviously, do you find a way to take a haircut? I don't know how you do that, but Westbrook will be smart, trying to find a way to stay here. He's home in LA. They found the right fit. This team can extend his career a little more longer too. Also, by the fact that Kawhi Leonard is going to be probably doing low management next year too, having a Russell Westbrook actually does give you the flexibility to have a guy there, another star, to hold the fort down till Kawhi's ready to go in the playoffs. Just saying. So that's something you got to look at. So I think if the Clippers can find a way to negotiate down to get Westbrook to take less money to stay with the Clippers, that'd be a good fit for them. Hot Celtics Game 6 is tonight. That series would end on Tuesday. Trae Young, daggered the Celtics. I think it ends tonight. That series ends tonight, honestly. Lakers Grizzlies. Lakers lose opportunity to end the series last night. I still think the Grizzlies will lose in 6. I think the Lakers will win that Game 6. I think the Lakers are just tired. LeBron James looked gassed yesterday. And look, the Lakers actually, they were down big in the first half, came back, cut lead to 1 point in the third quarter, and then a 1-point deficit turned to a 25-point deficit, like that. So, but I think Lakers will get all together and they'll win Game 6 at Crypto.com. one more thing before I go to the next topic here. The Golden State Warriors. They are now up 3-2 with the Kings. Last night there was a light bulb went off. This is the first time all year long that this Warriors team looks like the Warriors team that won the title last year. And last night was the light bulb moment. Andrew Wiggins is back after being out for 20-plus games due to personal reasons. They trade back for Gary Payton Jr. He's now getting more minutes now. Draymond Green was fantastic last night. Again, Draymond Green can talk all the shit he wants, but he has the receipts to do it, unlike Dylan Brooks. Steph was Steph last night. Clay is back. He's on the offensive end anyway. Look, if you ask me right now who are the favorites in the Western Conference, I'm going to go Golden State. I'm going Golden State. If this is the Warriors team last night, if this is what we're going to see going forward, I don't think either Lakers, Phoenix, or Denver can beat them. Or the Grizzlies, man, assuming the Grizzlies come back and win the series. I think the Warriors are in talent mode. I think the light bulb went off last night, and I think finally we saw the Warriors. They win a big road game in Sacramento against a team that has right now the best home court right now in the league. Find a way to win that game. I think the Warriors are back. I think the Warriors are the favorites in the West now. And, I think the Warriors are back. I just think that last night was a light bulb moment for the Warriors. All right. Let's talk Phil Jackson. Why Phil Jackson? Well, Phil Jackson made some weird comments today on Rick Rubin's podcast. Rick Rubin's a music producer. Actually produced one of Metallica records, too. But was also produced by DMC back in the days and all that. Phil Jackson, I've always said Phil Jackson's always been a little bit out of touch to some degree. He had some comments in regarding the bubble, NBA bubble, during the political stuff. Basically, he said that he has not watched any NBA games since the 2020 bubble because of the politics. He said, quote, "The NBA even has slogans on the floor and on the baseline. It was trying to cater to an audience or trying to bring a certain audience to the game. They didn't know it was turning other people off. People want to see sports as non-political. Politics stays out of the game. It doesn't need to be there." Obviously, you got a lot of heat for these comments rather. I saw Jalen Rose had some comments on his Instagram a couple days ago. A couple of people having comments. Let me say this about Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson has always been a weird guy. He's always been a different guy. He's an old school liberal. He's a very old school liberal. So let's be clear about that. I've always said Phil Jackson has a lot of blind spots. I do not think he's racist at all. I think what he's saying here actually is not necessarily wrong either. Now, I don't think, the issue with Black Lives Matter in terms of a slogan is a political issue. Yes, but Black Lives Matter is technically now a political movement. Technically, because it is a political platform. He's not saying that he doesn't agree Black lives don't matter. And look, this is why when we have these conversations, we need to have more nuance. But he does have blind spots. He does sound very old. He lives in Montana in his little hut, whatever. He's so disengaged in the world at large anyway. But to sit there and say Phil Jackson is a racist is a bit low-hanging fruit. Yes, he's made comments in the past about LeBron's posse and this and that. Scottie Pippen said he thinks he's racist. I think it's complete bullshit because Scottie Pippen didn't say a damn word about that for years on end, playing under him for well over 10 years. Okay. Pippen's trying to sell a book. Stop. Okay. Pippen said a lot of wacky shit in that book, also for the record. A book I do want to buy for the record, though, but he did say a lot of wacky shit. But I'm not going to go there and call him racist. I think he has a lot of blind spots. I think he certainly is out of touch. That's for sure. But to call this guy racist, I think it's a couple, not just one step. I think it's a couple steps too far. And what he's saying is not necessarily wrong either, because people don't want to see politics. Because sports is there as a escape from the shitty world we live in. We know that. Hell, I don't want to say politics. Look, I love talking politics on this podcast. I actually even love engaging in politics with people involving sports. But I think when I'm watching a game, I like to focus on the game first. I will say, though, Black Lives Matter shouldn't be a political statement anyway. It's a human rights issue, not so much a political issue, but it is in some ways political now. because Black Lives Matter is technically a political platform now, technically. So, but, Phil is out of touch. But that's, to me, that's not making more it needs to be. Because I disagree with someone's comments that we're going to call him racist. I'm up with that. Sorry, not with that at all. All right, Aaron Rodgers is now officially a New York Jet. I'm not going to go into the particulars of the trade. I think both teams did well here in the trade. I know they swapped first round picks, which is funny because I think the Jets now pick 15 and the Jets pick 13 now. So that was the big talking point of the trade. What big deal? Who gives a crap? I want to feel better about this trade for the Jets going forward. I do. The issue is I don't know the commitment. If this was Tom Brady doing this, I know I'm getting about these 3 to 5 years of Tom Brady because that's Tom Brady. Tom Brady shows that he wants to play the game. Tom Brady is diabolically driven to be the greatest of all time, which he is the greatest of all time for the record. Aaron Rodgers has kind of had a foot out the door already. He already said that this past January, after the season's over, that he went to his little daughter's retreat and he was 9% sure he's going to retire and came back and changed his mind. So the only fear for the Jets here, like I would feel much better about this team going forward because it's one thing to say, okay, yeah, we're excited this year. If I'm getting a guy of this caliber and getting up capital for this guy, I'd like to know I'm getting at least 2 to 3 years out of this guy first. And for the record, he's still really good. He's still a top 10 quarterback in the league. So he stays healthy, he's still going to give you all the goods and then some. I just don't feel as good about it because I don't know if this is year to year. Will he consider retirement again after this year? I don't know. And then the Jets left holding the bag because there's Zach Wilson again. Zach Wilson is the other option. But he did say the right things at the presser. He did say the right things at his press conference. So it does feels like he's in. But again, I feel better about this team. I knew he was in for at least 2 to 3 years, at least. Now, expectations. Everything is a Super Bowl bust year for the Jets. If you think that Rodgers is going to retire after this year, or consider retiring again after this year, then I guess that is kind of title bust is kind of on the table, I guess. I would say based on the roster last year and the roster have this year coming into this year, adding Rodgers, who's a top 10 guy, certainly still in this league, they're definitely a playoff contender. I still don't know if I put them in the ilk of Buffalo, Kansas City, Cincinnati, and Buffalo. I think they're a playoff contender. I don't know if they win the division. I think the Dolphins, for example, have the better team all around. They're both Buffalo and the Jets. I think the better roster. But, of course, Tua Tagovailoa is the big issue. Does he stay healthy? We don't know that. Also, Buffalo's still Buffalo. They didn't get better, in my opinion, but I don't think they got worse. So you still got Josh Allen and those boys up in Buffalo. So I don't know. Definitely play contender. I definitely see him as a wildcard team. I see him win 10 games this year. I know other people have him going worse than that. Whatever, it's their opinion. But we'll. I got to see a couple games. I know he'll be really good, but I want to see commitment from this guy. I want to see him go to OTAs and bond with his players, and see if that will help a lot. Because that goes a long way. Tom Brady did that, and he won the title. He won a Super Bowl, an extra title in Tampa as a result, and didn't during COVID, in fact. So we shall see. We shall see how it plays out. It's going to be one of the fastest storylines. I will say, though, I am actually just as equally fascinated about the Packers going forward and Jordan Love and how he does there in Green Bay. How that plays out. So just saying there. I think the Packers won't be, obviously you lose Rodgers off the shoot. They get worse. But I can see this team winning maybe 6, 7, 8 games this year. NFC North, there's no runaways. Minnesota had a 13-4 season, but they were -5 point differential. Certainly they won't be as good as they were last year. The Lions are on up and up, but they got to prove it still. The Bears are still building. So I will say the NFC North is still a bit open. Not wide open, but open to some degree. So, all right, finally, before I get you go, tonight is draft night officially. People call it Christmas time for themselves or whatever, holidays, whatever. I'm not a. Let me frame this more logically. Yes, I am interested in the NFL draft, of course. But I don't go beyond the first round, certainly the first couple picks, and what the Giants do, I'm pretty much disengaged. Because, first off, the draft is happening at the same time the NBA playoffs are going on, and I'm not giving up NBA playoffs to watch the draft. Sorry. I don't need to be totally engaged other than, what the Giants are doing and a couple of picks on top to see what's going on. What other guys I want to see where they're going. I'm also interested in a couple of things in their draft tonight. How many quarterbacks go in the first round? In the first 10 picks, I say. Not in this first round, in picks-wise. Because you have the C.J. Stroud situation, the Bryce Young situation. You heard the Anthony Richardson thing from, hype the last couple of weeks. Now I get the Will Levis hype that coming in the last couple of weeks. How many quarterbacks will go off in the first 10 picks? Carolina's first pick, who are they going to go with? And whoever they don't go with, how far they fall. Houston, number 2 pick. They, I guess, need a quarterback. But will they go quarterback? That's what he holds. I mean, the quarterback they have right now was it get his name real quick. Hold on. Let me see real quick. Davis Mills. Yeah. Davis Mills is the quarterback. Just so you know, I'm getting old. I used to be able to name quarterbacks like nothing, and now my age is started to 42 years old. He's not a terrible quarterback, but they can use another quarterback, honestly. So they got a lot of options there. But like I said, the Colts, where they go? What quarterback they go after? Whoever's available. A lot of things there. And then the Giants, of course, what are they going to do? I think I picked number 24, right? Let me see the Giants draft position here real quick. I guess look this up. I'm doing this live on the podcast. I think it's 24, I believe, though. Let me just make sure of that. 24. No, 25. They have the 25th pick in the draft. Obviously, the holes they have, I would say receivers, that's a big thing for them. They need another receiver. O-line still priority. It wouldn't hurt to get another defensive guy, but again, a lot of value. Just a lot of value. We'll see. This is the first time in a while they've drafted this high. Low, how you say, like in the 20s. It's been a long time since they've been this good, so this is kind of cool. But those are the questions I really care about in this draft. Like I said, I'll be locked in watching the draft, but there's only one game on tonight too, the Hawks and Celtics. I'll watch that game. I'll be watching that game also too. So it'll be another 2 TV night for me here in the Christian household. So enjoy the draft, man, guys. Enjoy the draft tonight. So there we go. And that, I think we'll call there. I'm going to go and get some lunch now. I do have a couple hours myself before getting my kids from school. My wife has gone to Orlando and Disney World for the entire day, so I won't see her until later tonight. So I got a little time to myself. I'm going to enjoy the rest of this day to myself. So again, I'm on Twitter at EJChristian7. Earnestly Podcast across all podcast catchers. Like I said, my YouTube page at youtube.com/@Earnest, /@Earnest Christian. And we will talk soon. And we'll probably come back on Sunday next podcast. Well, we'll see. Next, I was saying Sunday, but we'll see what happens. See you guys later. Enjoy the playoffs. Enjoy the draft. Later.